Hey Madhav, thank you so much for joining us on Thinking Out Loud podcast. Samyak and I are super stoked to have you here. Just a little introduction for the audience about what you are, what you've done. So Madhav basically is from Delhi. He has completed his undergraduation from Hindu College, University of Delhi. Madhav started his own cloud kitchen when he was 15 years old. And I mean, at that time, he hadn't even started going to college properly. It was called the Beijing Street, which went on for almost close to 7 years. After that, Madhav started his own dark store company, dark store startup, which is called the ZFW Dark Stores in 2021, through which he facilitates deliveries in 30 minutes, 2 hours, and the same day delivery model as well. Madhav has his own portfolio of angel investments across the D2C ecosystem, focusing on logistics, fintech, e-commerce, consumer internet, and primarily D2C. Madhav, we are super stoked to have you here and would love to know your entire experience building cloud kitchens from the age of 15 to a dark store business in as early as Jan 2021. Again, we are super stoked to have you here, Madhav. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'll quickly give you a couple of minutes on how we started and then tell you more about the Cloud Kitchen venture.
Sure.
And then we can sort of flip onto the dark store side of things.
Sure.
So I started back in 2015. A quick correction here, that was when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
And that time I had just sort of graduated from school. I was just getting into college. And University of Delhi is not very taxing in terms of time commitment. And that's when I thought I should build something on the side, something like a side hustle of sorts, right? Uh, and then I was chatting with my family and I said, I want to start a cloud kitchen. I want to start a sort of a delivery takeaway outlet. And 2015 was also, I think, were also early days for platforms like Swiggy online ordering, Food Panda online ordering. There were other platforms like Tiny Owl and a bunch of others. And the food delivery ecosystem was also evolving. That's when we started Beijing Street. The first store did well for us. We went on to the second store. The second store also did well for us. We scaled to the third and the fourth. I graduated from college in 2018. 2020 was when we were peaking in the cloud kitchen venture, but COVID happened to sort of come and impact the entire business. A bunch of our stores were on high streets, and that's when we had to sort of pause operations for a few of those stores and sit back, think of a scalable model, see how to come back to market. And after having sort of built brands for 7 long years, we wanted to sort of flip on the enabler seat and start helping brands scale as we did over the last 7 years. That's when ZFW Dark Stores happened. We signed a bunch of customers. Since we had an experience in F&B, we started signing the ice cream brands. They were very easy to scale using a bunch of dark stores, a bunch of dark kitchens. When we signed the first brand, I think that was Baskin Robbins. We signed a bunch of others. We signed Kiventas. We signed, and fast forward to today, we're doing about 25, 27 ice cream brands across stages, right from the Vadilals all the way to the new age Noto getaway ones, all the way to the smaller players, right? So that's when, of course, dark stores happened. That's when we started scaling up and helping them increase distribution, increase scale. And this is when the second wave of COVID was happening, early 2021, right? Brands were anyways shutting down their high street rentals, their high street stores and sort of mall parlors, etc. And ZFW dark stores were very important for them to scale up across markets and maintain revenue and ensure that you're sort of stagnating revenue and not degrowing in terms of revenue. So that was the idea. And when we sort of validated that with a bunch of F&B categories dominated by ice cream, that's when we thought we could do it with all the non-F&B categories, whether that's beauty, personal care, electronics, wellness, Ayurveda, gourmet, grocery, all of these categories. So currently, I think that's what we're doing. We're building the same day delivery ecosystem for D2C brands and e-commerce businesses across India. Currently present across 5 markets: Delhi, Bombay, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, across 160 dark stores. Yeah.
Just coming to the cloud kitchen story first, Madhav, and then we'll maybe talk about the, ZFW. So on the cloud kitchen side, when you were 18, that's probably from today, like 8, 9 years back, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, so 8, 9 years back.
About, I think, yeah, 8 years.
Yeah,
Good
8 years
yeah.
back, right?
Yeah.
So like what made you think to that, this cloud kitchens would work? Because today if you see, there are tons of cloud kitchens doing tons of businesses, but at that time this idea was new to people and probably not even thought of, because no one everyone would go to a restaurant, eat, and or order from there. So what made you get into this entire cloud kitchen space in the first place?
Yeah, think of yourself 18 years old, getting into college, wanting to do a side hustle for some extra income, for some pocket money.
Right.
What are the options, right? You can either Today you have other options. You can build content. Today you can run a social media company. You can do a digital marketing company. You can do five other things, right? At
Mhm.
that time, what could you do? You could either do something like be a volunteer at college, or run a small F&B sort of venture, or yeah, I think there were only limited options, and this was the easiest in terms of go to market,
Right.
and
Right.
and and that's how sort of I jumped into this.
So it was like only in Delhi, or you had dark kitchens outside Delhi as well? Like when you
No, we
started
had
and you expand.
Yeah, we had one in Bombay,
Mhm.
and so we had most of them in Delhi and one in Bombay.
Understood. So when it comes to these kind of cloud kitchens, I think again, comparing it to the dark stores as well, the unit economics, the distribution, and the supply chain, all the three of them are really very important. So can you just give a brief on how the unit economics worked for that, and how was your distribution going around that time? Were you like on Zomato or that time, or Swiggy that time? Because that was a pretty new concept also. So how was the entire system made?
So I'll be very honest. At that time, when we started out, there was only Food Panda, and they were sort of dominating the market.
Right.
Um, we literally saw Zomato start the online ordering vertical. Before that, Zomato existed, but that was only the discovery platform side of them.
Right.
Swiggy started in 2014, so we were one of the first restaurants to be signed up in Delhi. They started off in
Wow.
Bangalore. So when they flipped from Bangalore to Delhi, and when they
Hmm.
scaled up to Delhi, we were one of the first ones to sort of get onboarded. We still and then there were certain smaller ones, like I mentioned, I think Tiny Owl and a bunch of others. We also saw Uber Eats enter the Indian market and then later get sold to Zomato, and we witnessed the entire evolution of the online ordering space right from the very front row. Giving you a little bit on unit economics, I've seen the space for 7 years, right?
Right.
Uh, Cloud kitchens can never make money, and
Oh,
and
okay.
and 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 there's a very strong thesis behind that.
Hmm.
Restaurants doing online delivery can make money. Cloud kitchens cannot make money. The reason behind that is two things. A, first of all, you're always dependent on online aggregators,
Right.
right?
Correct. Correct.
And in business, when more than 50% of your costs are a percentage, the business cannot make money,
Hmm.
because even at scale, costs will also scale, right?
Makes sense.
Good enough gross margin to support your fixed costs, which include rentals, salaries, electricity, utilities, miscellaneous.
Right.
If your cost of goods sold, your
Right.
online options, your discounting, if all of those cost heads and cost centers are a percentage of your transaction, and a big percentage, which is crossing 65-70%,
Hmm.
cloud kitchens will never make money.
Understood.
So that's on unit economics. And I
Right.
Hmm.
strongly believe that larger groups, larger F&B companies in India, whether it's the Jubilant Group or it's any of the other larger ones,
Hmm.
will continue to make money for two reasons. One, online ordering is only one channel of the multiple channels they're sort of operating. And B, they're not overly dependent on online aggregators.
Correct.
You need to The basic fundamental of a consumer business is knowing the customer.
Hmm.
Right.
You need to have a direct channel with the customer. When you have an online marketplace in the middle, you don't have access to the customer. The customer has access to you, but you don't have access to the customer. And when this is a
Correct.
one-way street, businesses don't make money.
Understood. When did you realize this?
I realized this very late in the game. And I started off when Zomato, Swiggy used to sort of pay us to be on the platform.
Mhm.
And we were at like 5% commissions for the longest time. Fast forward to today, I think that 25% is what the industry norm is.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And cost of goods sold have gone up. Supply is more than demand. Hence, there is a price war. Hence, there is a discounting war, right? So percentage cost centers on the transaction are over 70% today.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Totally.
So, Madhav, given that I was hearing a few interviews of yours, right? You specifically mentioned that in 2018, once you were graduating at that time, you had this tussle sort of a thing with your father, wherein he was asking you to study, for your masters, and you were like, I don't want to get into all this, right? So, how did that phase transcend into starting ZFW, like from the cloud kitchen, where you realized at a very later date that this is, not a profitable game to stick to, and then starting ZFW practically at a time phase where, second wave of COVID was at its peak, right? Jan 2021, if we can broadly pinpoint to that time zone.
So, two things here. India as a country is a very low risk taking country, right? When your kids graduate from college, you want them to study. You want them to further study and be away from the fence and not closer to the fence, right? You want to hedge risk. So I think that's anybody, and that's any set of parents. And similarly, my parents also wanted me to sort of carry on the education journey, and that's something I was a little apprehensive about, thanks to my stubbornness. But yeah, I think I made the right decisions, and I feel I made the right decisions, and I'd sort of choose to believe so. But yeah, I think education, I feel in India, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that not only because it's just that everybody is saying education is not the best in India. It's just that the way people learn in school and people learn in college, I think is a very flawed system in 2022. There are better ways of learning. I think the way you guys are learning at a startup and the way I've learned sort of the hard way, right? There's much more learning in sort of these parts of life than just typical book reading.
Absolutely. What can change in your opinion?
I think people need to go on ground. People need to start learning. People need to start building their own playbooks and not refer to existing playbooks. People need to start understanding. People should not just keep rote learning. I think mostly everything is wrong with the educational system.
Right. So just reminds me of a conversation we had with Pratham, who's the founder of Masters Union. It's again like a Gurgaon-based MBA B school, and he's also changing the way education system works, right? So this is like a 13-month MBA model which they have, right? And what they are doing is from day one they put students in real life situations. So they make them run a drop shipping business, and actual business which earns revenue, makes profit, and it's all on them. So and the professors are the one who have had real life. Who are real life CXOs, CEOs of the company who come and teach, not the professors who have just been teaching like the theoretical knowledge since years. A marketing guy might not have been a CMO, but here all the teachers and professors are someone who have that industry experience. So the model which he's working with and his views are, were kind of similar to what you were saying. And today it is competing IIMs in terms of jobs, in terms of packages. And the top companies, recruiters like consultants like Bay and BCG, XYZ, they all come to that school, which is not even like a decade old, but just because of the way they teach and the way they put the students in the real life business from day one. So I think I agree, and I think in the next decade, this system would change to a drastic extent thanks to
Started changing, but still
yes,
early.
early days. Yes. So in a decade's time, I think a lot will change, at least from the traditional model, which I am into. I think I am the way, I think maybe 6 years before you in terms of studies. So I cannot say anything about the way I've been taught. It has only been like a mugging kind of thing for me from day one, right? Even for a CA, it's just like, you mug, because a lot of things are practical when you're doing it, but when you're sitting for an exam and audit law, you cannot do anything but a mug. So I think I agree to what you're saying, Madhav. I totally agree. So
And
yeah,
everybody needs to fail early on, right? It's not important to always play the sort of risk-free game and always hedge risk at every stage. Sometimes there is a need to just go all out and fail fast and learn more.
right, right. I think that's what your story has been now, and now like maybe shifting gears and moving on to the dark store. So in between, obviously, you've made a lot of investments, which will obviously take. But again, how did you start with the dark stores? Like, what was your backstory behind getting the idea of operating a dark store?
So I think it all evolved from the entire cloud kitchen phase of my journey, right? When I was running cloud kitchens, I thought I can optimize them by adding certain packaged brands like ice cream brands, snacking brands, and beverage brands. And when I did that, I figured out on the consumer side, on the demand perspective, that when I can do this with F&B categories, I can also very well do this with non-F&B categories. And that's when we jumped into D2C. But later we figured out D2C cannot happen in kitchens. D2C needs to happen in dark stores, in mini micro warehouses. And that's when we went into dark stores. Our sort of conviction doubled down when we signed the first 30, 40 brands, when we executed the first 15, 20 of them, and when we saw existing demands being diverted to us, existing demands being diverted from incumbent courier and courier aggregation players all the way to ZFW for same-day delivery. And we started D2C same-day delivery in Delhi. Today we're in 5 markets, launching Chennai next month and Calcutta in January.
Fair. So, Madhav, just to take a step back over here, can you just provide a small 101 sort of a thing for what exactly dark stores is? Because again, we understand the entire mini warehouse concept, right? But then for most people, dark stores is more of this automated machinery that is there that just gets you things to your doorstep with a click of a button, right? But no one really understands that what goes around, what operations goes around in the background for that to happen. So, just a little 101 sort of a thing for the audience to have a better grasp on the entire conceptuality around dark stores.
Okay, I'll sort of divide this into 2 pieces.
Yeah.
A, what is a dark store, and B, why a dark store? Right? A, what is a dark store? A dark store is any 4-walled structure, any room, any hall within which there are racks and shelves on which there are products of multiple categories stored. In our sort of direct use case, we have multi-brand dark stores. So the same dark store will host about 20, 30, 40, 50 brands. And within those brands, 50, 60, 80 SKUs each, right? Dark stores, how are they different from warehouses? Warehouses are typically large carpet storage centers across the city or outside the city, maybe one large warehouse outside large metro cities. Dark stores are within the city, within urban density, near customers. And this also sort of comes to the why part. Why people have dark stores and why companies are sort of running and operating dark stores is because the world is becoming quicker. People need stuff not in 3 and 5 and 7 days, but in 3 and 5 and 7 hours. And that's what companies like us enable by placing dark stores near customers so that deliveries can be picked, packed, dispatched, and delivered to users within the same day.
Understood. So I just wanted to draw a parallel over here, right? Like Zepto, owns the tech that delivers to your doorsteps, and at the same time, the facility through which, it gets delivered to your doorsteps, right? But right now you spoke of ZFW acting as an enabler to F&B brands to start with, and then, foraying into other categories, right? So how does that play come into the picture, right? Like you acting as an enabler and you owning the entire play.
Got it. So Zepto, Instamart, Blinkit, Dunzo Daily, and what was Ola Dash.
Right.
All of these are quick commerce platforms. What that means is that they own the user, they own the inventory, and they own the operation.
Correct.
So Samyak and Samarth place an order. It goes to the nearest quick commerce dark store. At the dark store, these items are picked, packed, dispatched, and delivered to Samyak and Samarth in 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes. So they own the user, they own the inventory, and they own the operation. But this is only users that they control. All of these brands listed on quick commerce also have their own direct channels, which is their own websites, where these channels don't contribute a big chunk of their revenue, but in terms of a qualitative approach, they are the highest quality of channel because they own the customer experience, and they own the customer journey.
Mm-hmm.
And hence, brands are now focusing on the entire post-order experience, which will lead to stickiness, which will lead to a higher customer delight. And that's what we enable. So we don't own the user. We don't even own the inventory, but we own the ecosystem of it being stored, picked, packed, dispatched, and delivered.
Understood. So again, talking about those two parallels only, right? As you said that you are just an enabler. So your revenue model, your profit model would be obviously totally opposite to what they are doing, right? And at one point in time, again, when I see both the companies, right? One being you being enabler and other operating it end to end, because of the competition and because they manage end to end operations, the cash burn or the to be the number one having the highest market share, that keeps them burning more and more cash, and I'm not sure when that will be profitable. But in your case, this will be a profitable model from not day one, but maybe in a couple of months or years, because you are enabling, you are just providing like a service to the other companies, right? So do you think that again this model, the enabler model, is better than this model, because this will again take a lot of time to be profitable?
100%. Enabler models like us don't burn, at least
exactly.
At the level. We spend out of what we charge.
Right.
I'm charging 10 rupees to Samyak. I'm spending 8 rupees within those 10 rupees.
Right.
I burn on acquiring users. I don't burn on working capital to acquire the inventory within the dark stores.
Okay.
I will service the order, apply a charge, collect the fees, and spend and burn within that fees, at least at the transaction level.
Right.
Till a certain scale, I may burn at the corporate level, but I will not burn at the transaction level.
Understood.
I'm very blunt about my thesis that in India, grocery platforms will never make money.
Right.
For a simple thesis, the grocery basket sizes are very small and low.
Correct.
The average take rate in grocery, even gourmet grocery, is within 20%. And that's the same take rate a normal general trade, modern trade retailer will also take. Plus minus 3-4%.
Understood.
And there's a cap to which a rider can deliver in a day.
Yeah.
And he has a minimum wage in every state. And there is a minimum petrol cost. So if you equate all of this on an Excel, even Excel won't show you a corporate level profitability at least for 5 years.
Yes, agreed. The unit economics don't make sense at all.
Vertical platforms will make money. Myntra will make money. Jabong will make money. Vertical platforms will make money. Horizontal grocery platforms will never make money. And especially in quick commerce, where your delivery promise is within 30 minutes, you have zero time to optimize your routes and batches.
Right.
Understood. I feel I love the model which DMart has, which is totally different than a Zepto or a Blinkit. They don't promise that we'll deliver your grocery in 30 minutes. They give you a ETA of 2 days or probably 3. Either you go and pick up from our store it's ready, or we'll deliver you in 2 days, but we'll not burn. And even if you order like a 2-3 thousand worth of grocery, they'll still charge you 50 rupees delivery, right? So I think what they are doing in terms of unit economics and in terms of operating is much better than probably these instant gratification grocery stores, which again, to me, instant gratification only doesn't make sense to a certain extent, but I'm going a little philosophical there. But I think that model makes more sense than this. What's your take?
No, grocery was never needed in 30 minutes in India. Your
Exactly.
grocery in 30 minutes is when my basket size will only drop.
Right.
2 or 3 of these companies, all the quick commerce players that exist in India earlier were on 2-day, 3-day, 4-day deliveries with basket sizes ranging between 2,000 and 3,000.
Right.
And post quick commerce, they've dropped down to basket sizes between 300 and 400.
Correct.
And revenues are dominated by the grocery category, quick commerce. Nobody's coming here and buying beauty. Right. And secondly, what I feel is in quick commerce, when you own the inventory and you own the storage, there's a cap to the number of SKUs that you can store.
Right.
Just in a 2,000 square feet carpet footage, you cannot store more than 2,500 SKUs.
Yeah.
That is only 20-25% of the SKUs. An average grocery gourmet platform, not quick commerce, will have about 35 to 40,000 SKUs.
Right.
And what you end up doing is, for better margins, going to newer brands who are ready to pay listing fees and ready to throw and spend a lot of dollars on marketing.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to enter the consumer's house.
Right.
Products have a high lifetime value. If you look at the tea that you consume in the morning or the rice that you consume in the afternoon, brands rarely change over 5-10 years.
Right.
It's difficult to get into your household, but once you're in the household, if you like the product, it's difficult to get out.
Agreed.
Right? So that's where I feel that, and larger brands don't give margins.
Yeah.
The smaller ones do.
Right.
So if you put all of this together and zoom out, you will figure out that Excel will never show you money. Leave aside what the real balance sheet will show you.
Agreed. Understood. Makes sense. So, is it like more a valuation game than creating value for the company itself?
It's creating value. It's creating a large engine. It's creating a large engine of sellers. It's creating a large engine of dark stores and fleets. It's creating a large engine of users, and then venturing into other models.
But
I also feel somewhere in the journey, they will be questioned by authorities and the government on how do they identify themselves. Do they identify themselves as a marketplace, or do they identify themselves as inventory-led platforms?
Okay.
Right? Because there's a very big FDI regulation against being an inventory-led platform.
Correct.
And it's very early days for quick commerce, and they haven't tasted scale right now. So, and it's very early days, right? We've just seen them for the last 18 months, but this is coming.
Understood. Fair enough. Got it. So just now, last question on the ZFW, and probably then we'll go to the angel investment sides which you have. So how does the entire cycle work for you? Like today, you onboard a client, you have their product in your dark store. Say now an order comes, how do you kind of cater to the entire cycle from moving it out of the dark store to getting it to the store?
I think it's fairly simple. Brands store their inventory across dark stores in the ZFW network. We connect to their Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, whatever their website is based on. When the order comes, it gets routed to the nearest dark store. At the dark store level, the products are picked, packed, dispatched, and delivered to the users in the very same day with a certain cutoff.
Okay. Do you also give it to the stores also? Say, for example, a store of a Vadila or a Baskin Robbins No, right? Say they need and they are out of stock. Does it go there as well?
On the
No, right?
D2C channel.
Only D2C, right? Okay,
Correct.
cool.
Only on the D2C channel.
Agree.
So,
Understood.
Madhav, just another, follow-up question on the entire ZFW piece, right? So one thing that really intrigues me is the fact that, again, this entire industry, not the quick commerce space, but more of the dark store enabler space, right? How do you go about hiring the right talent for this in terms of, the expansion picture in mind, in terms of the larger picture of ZFW in mind? Because I think this becomes fairly a very critical aspect for you to expand, set footing into different cities, yet keeping that moat alive. So how do you go about the hiring bit in terms of the industry?
I think when we're hiring talent, right, at least at the senior level, we're always looking for a DNA fit.
Right.
We're always looking for energized folks, uh, and energetic folks who are sort of looking for early risky bets,
Mm-hmm.
and want to sort of hustle in early engines. And it takes us a lot of time to hire the right talent.
Correct.
But once done, I think it generally works well.
Understood.
Got it. Got it.
So DNA
So,
fit is very important.
okay.
So
So I think,
when you say DNA, sorry, Samarth, just when you say DNA, it just means the entire cultural fit of your organization. Will it like fit into the system? Is he like as enthusiastic as you in building the business or scaling up the business? I'm talking about the management level or a senior level
I
position.
think the way we think about the company currently, the way we think about the company going forward, um, we're always more interested to understand what the incoming candidate is looking for in his next stint. Is he just looking for a fancy CTC, or is he looking for some risk in life? And we spend more time before hiring the person than after hiring the person.
Okay. Okay.
And it's like almost like 5 rounds of like an hour each.
Oh wow. Okay.
understood.
That's good. Mm.
So, Madhav, now changing gears and moving to the whole angel investment side of things, right? So, we had hosted Arjun for the 6th episode, and one thing that Arjun very clearly mentioned was that, the angel part that he's doing, right, is more to do with giving back to the community and mentoring founders. And like you mentioned, that you co-invest with him in some sense, right? So, just wanted to understand your thesis around angel investment. How do you go about it? What was your first investment, and your overall thesis about the entire piece?
I think I'm also very early into sort of angel investments, and just done about 12 or 14 deals in the
Right.
last 2 quarters. And fairly opportunistic approach, not a very sector focused approach, not a very thesis driven approach. Definitely want to enter early, definitely want to enter in businesses I understand, definitely want to enter in businesses that I see synergies with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the first one was we did this company called Stage, which is Netflix for Bharat.
Yeah.
And we've done a bunch of others. I think that list is available on my LinkedIn, but typically 1-2 deals a month is what we look at.
So is this done something individually by you, or do you have like a syndicate of sorts that does the deal flow, like just to get some sense?
It's more on the individual side only, on the personal side.
Right.
Okay.
It's about
So
staying active in the ecosystem, helping early stage founders who are going through, their first, second rounds, or their angel rounds, or their first institutional rounds. Um, Also understanding what sort of people are building on the consumer side. So it's very interesting. It's more as a pastime on the side.
what do you see in a founder or in a pitch when before investing, apart from obviously the synergies and understanding the business and all sorts of technicalities, but also on the qualitative side as well?
I think again, uh, may sound as a buzzword, but DNA fit. It's very important for the founder to be synced with his business. It's very important for the founder to sound passionate. I don't really care about the numbers, because numbers are what people build after raising rounds also, right?
Mhm.
Um, and businesses and models keep pivoting. So it's about the larger vision, and what sort of an audience is the founder sort of solving for. and is it a problem worth solving, and
Mm.
how the team and the entire team structure. Team is very important. I feel team is the most important in building any venture.
Right. So do you like participate in business decisions being an angel investor, because you are tied up with your side of the story, maintaining and work, getting the ZFW part done, that you might not have like a so much time to kind of spend on them as well.
Definitely, I think bandwidth is always a crunch, right? But having said that, not very active in decision making. But whenever founders sort of want an ear, want a shoulder to
Right.
understand, want to sort of use me as a sounding board, always happy to help.
Okay. Got it. So again, then
And of
coming
course,
to,
access to network. That's
yeah,
one thing
of
that a
course.
founder always.
Right. Yeah, of course. I think Samarth and I are very used to, because we reach out to investors, because a lot of our investors are also investors in other crypto startups and have a big portfolio. So for us, getting some view on having access to them, or having access to their channels, or people who can use our platform, I agree that we have to go to investors at a lot of times to get those things done as well. So moving on your obviously investment side, this one is just like the startups which we spoke about. But how else do you manage your investments, Madhav? Like, are you like an equity investor? Do you invest in debt? How do you manage your portfolio, or it's just this investment in the startup ecosystem?
Definitely, a lot of my portfolio is sort of inclined towards the startup side because I am a very high risk taker.
Mm.
Um, a bit of it is in Zerodha, I think on public
Oh,
market
right.
blue chip stocks, but
Mhm.
that doesn't really excite me. And
Okay.
and of course, FTs and the safest sort of form factors of investments are close to zero,
Okay.
and
So
it's all managed by myself.
oh, okay. Fair enough. I would have told you no, no, no FD. Had you told me that I have investments, I would have told you no. You can have to get it out today itself.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Of course, I think uh, that was a wise decision from day one. No FTs. I think
Absolutely.
for
I
the long
can't
term.
agree.
Yeah.
Can't agree more. What's your take on the financial independence side? Do you think that, like a lot of folks have told us that, at the end of the day, that means for us that I have the power to do whatever I want, that time independence is more important than that financial independence. So is your take the same, or do you have a different perspective on financial freedom?
I think financial freedom is also linked to sort of what we're taught in early life, right? Uh, right from the concept of pocket money to the concept of spending in college to the concept of everything around that. Kids are always taught to spend. They're
Mm.
never taught to save. So it's very important to sort of teach them the entire financial freedom part of the story by telling them to first save and then have the freedom to choose what to invest in, what to spend on, and how to spend time, right? Uh, so I think thesis starts with first teaching uh, kids early on how to save rather than spend.
Okay, agreed. Same perspective, but just wanted to like spend. For me the idea is just to live a frugal life. Like you can spend if you want, right? But don't spend on things which are not necessary. Live a little below your means. Not that you don't enjoy your life, you don't go out, you stop going on vacations, but you spend at a in a way that you live a bit below your means also, so that you can save more, invest more, and maybe have that financial independence kind of figure, that at least now if I don't have a full-time job, I can at least do things I want on my own type of thing, rather than splurging every day. Because at least in my age and what I've seen my friends, my colleagues doing, it's splurge, and to some extent I'm also guilty of it at times, because I get carried away. So for me, I try to live sometimes as frugal as possible in certain ways. But yes, for me, I want to get to that you know pinnacle, that for me frugality has to be the utmost importance rather than splurging. So I think that's what I think of financial independence.
No, I think that's very important, and that's what we teach and preach at startups also, right? We raise capital, we have the ability to burn, but the competence of saving and ensuring a longer runway is what goes a long way, and what gives a lot of investors confidence as well.
Right, right.
So I
Uh,
think different use case, but
Correct.
same mantra.
Agreed. I think when times like these come, like especially when I see the Web3 ecosystem right now, being frugal is more important than splurging. Maybe in the beginning of the year or end of last year, this was not the case. So times are changing, and with that, companies have to change as well. So I agree to your point.
And
Move.
taking on to your point of sort of planning, right? And splurging versus spending and frugally. I think it's very important to map out a lifestyle that you want to live in
Yeah.
X number of years,
Right.
start back calculating what you need.
Mhm.
And for what you need, start planning your monthly income and putting them in buckets that, okay, X percentage of my income is on my
Right.
running expenditure, X percentage is on savings, and X percentage is on investments. And
Agreed.
within those buckets, also sort of sub buckets, right? X percentage within public markets, X in FDs,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So
Right.
having a backward calculated plan and an approach is very important rather than just going all out and just saving uh, uh, aimlessly.
Understood. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think I in one of the podcasts with the barbershop Ankur had a figure of 21 crores 40 lakhs X number that he'll need today so that he can retire, and he had this entire plan that I'll be putting this money here, this money here, this money here, and I
And
my
get to
kid.
that. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. So I think you're talking about the same thing, and
And
I
yeah,
think it's
backward calculation is very important.
yes, yes, agreed, agreed. Right. Moving on to the last question, maybe Samarth will also have had the same question. Uh, what books have kind of helped you in your journey, or are you an avid reader, or do you recommend reading a lot, or do you have time to read a lot and stuff like that?
No, I think 5 second rule by Mel Robbins is very important. Atomic Habits by James Clear is, of course, a blockbuster of all times. And I feel podcasts are also very important. Reading books can become monotonous at times. Masters of Scale it's a very good podcast for people wanting to start and build. And the 20-minute VC by Harry Stebbings is also very interesting.
I think sometimes podcasts are really more helpful than maybe
They're
reading
more
because
engaging. They're more
yes.
engaging. They're more real life.
Yes, yes, agreed, agreed. I love Joe Rogan as well. Some of Naval Ravikant's podcast there with Tim Ferriss, they are like a life. Like I really love the book, obviously the Almanac. I'm not sure if you've read, but do give it a read when you have some time, or listen to his podcast with Joe Rogan. I think it's like one of the best, like a high afford.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Just maybe try if you have some time next time.
For sure.
Awesome. I think that was a great conversation, Madhav. Thank you so much for again coming and helping our audience understand what the entire dark store play of things is, because that is something that is extremely talked about, but no one has ever given a clear cut commentary on that. So thank you so much, Madhav, for your time and educating our audience about the dark store side of things.
Yes. Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure.
Yeah.